who are the most important players that will determine whether the Cardinals are a surefire postseason team or not, and maybe the players that also can take that performance over into the postseason. Who are the guys that have the most influence on this team? I'll start.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to start with a very predictable person because we talked about him way too much, but I think the Cardinals have a good rotation. I think it's pretty solid. I think it's going to be a little better than people think. Jack Flaherty can make it a lot better if he's on his game. I don't know if he will be. That's why I'm saying he's a key player. He may be, La Russa would say, tie for first because there's some other really, really key players on this team. But if Flaherty really bounces back in the way that I think, if you're the eternal optimist, believes at least he's capable of, I would put him at number one on my list.
I agree with that from a pitching standpoint because I would say this for this reason. He's got the potential to be dominant. And that word potential is in air quotes because we know what he can be. Right. But if he's just guy, okay, we're fine. But if he's
solid, I'll take that. Yeah. But if he's
that
higher
guy,
level,
all of a sudden you start to catapult yourself into that conversation where we go, now you got a guy who can go into the playoffs and be a dominant force.
I don't have a good feeling about that part, but
I'm not either.
You know, and I know you don't either, like you just said, but we're saying, the both of us, is that to deny that he's capable of having a tremendous influence on the season, he's capable of it.
Yep.
You know, you can't deny that. He's a very crucial guy in terms of shaping the outcome of Cardinals baseball in 2023.
The position player for me for this.
Yeah, just anybody you want. It can be another pitcher.
It is Tyler O'Neill. If Tyler O'Neill puts up 35 homers and driving in runs and stealing bases and staying healthy.
Yeah. We'll give him one. As long as it's a short stint. We'll give him one. One on the house.
You get one.
You get one IL interruption on the house.
Yes.
That's it.
Because and part of the reason for this is it kind of looks like he's going to bat sixth and behind Contreras. And if you put that production in your sixth hole, your lineup looks really, really good. That's the one position player I'll put.
There's no doubt about it. I would go. We have many choices. I would go with my boy Lars Nootbaar next. Now, here's why. Because if he does what I think, I'm confident he can do, you're talking about a guy that's going to get on base all the time, a guy that's going to hit for power, a guy that runs the bases pretty well, not as well as Edman and a couple other guys, but you know, it's really hard to find those kind of guys. The Cardinals have two of them in Goldie and Arenado. You can be confident of like, okay, I'm going to put it on my pad now. We'll check at the end of the year. You know, you put him down. 30 home runs and 100 RBIs for Arenado. Goldie, you know, good batting average, high on-base percentage, good power. He may not be as awesome as he was last year, but he'll be really good.
Yep.
So what happens if you have a third guy like that playing every day? And if you look at Nootbaar and what he did last season, like the final 3 months, his on-base percentage was way up, close to 400. His slugging percentage was over 500. From the start of July to the end of the season, 57% of his hits went for extra bases. So if all of a sudden Nootbaar is kind of another version of those other two, the two bedrock players, think about if you have him doing what. I mean, there's a lot of people that know baseball and the analysts, and it's not just the analysts. Why do you think the Oakland A's wanted him? They said, well, no, we're not going to trade you Sean Murphy. We got to have Nootbaar.
That's right.
You know? Every other team that they called, Toronto, we got to have Nootbaar. No. They were talking with Cleveland about a pitcher. Nootbaar, no. Can't have him.
You're right on about that.
I think they would have been willing to trade just about everybody else on the team if, like, one player, not the big guys, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They would have been able to be talked into it, but no, they drew a line. No one was going to go there. So if he has that kind of season, and I actually have pretty good confidence that he will, that lineup then becomes really scary. And to your point, if they get O'Neill gone, and again, it's a matter of health more than anything.
Yeah.
That line with Contreras, that line, it suddenly goes from being like good, really good, to absolutely frightening.
Oh, if you're a pitcher,
yeah,
you're going to go, well, there's no easy outs all the way through. Maybe we'll get to 8, 7, 9,
right.
maybe.
And you know the other thing about it, I read this somewhere the other day, and I don't even know where, and it might have even been, you know, one of the really smart sites. And I know I've read it locally. You know, but he was, well, you can play Carlson because Nootbaar's bats left-handed, and so when you have a lefty pitcher on the mound, you know, it's like, whoa. Nootbaar slaughtered left-handed pitching last year.
Yep.
Now, he's got to show that he can do it over the long haul. He is the exact opposite of feeble when it comes to hitting against left-handed pitchers. That's the other thing that's really cool about him. So anyway, I'm excited about him, and I know for some reason there's this element of the fan base that you know thinks he's Steven Piscotty or something. I mean, y'all need to wake up.
Yeah.
All due respect and love, y'all need to wake up.
They're with you on that one. I don't know how many other categories are going in.
No, just go to your next guy.
Okay.
You can pick him anywhere on the roster.
One guy I think will be key, and I also think he's like more of a surprise guy than what people are thinking of. I think Steven Matz on the pitching side
big time
will be a real difference maker with this baseball team this year because he's healthy.
Big time.
And watching him throw so far, he's aggressive. He's not nibbling around.
No.
A guy who's healthy, has got stuff that he has, and is aggressive, will get guys out and be a difference maker.
And he likes to work fast, too.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He likes to work fast. Miklasz likes to work fast. Flaherty's going to have to work fast. I think Montgomery likes to work fast. He pokes around a little, you know. So I think Woodford works fast. Yep. All right, my next guy is one of the big names and was the big name over the offseason. That's Wilson Contreras. All right, listen. He since he broke in 2016, he's got among active catchers who play regularly. Since 2016, he's got the highest OPS. And he's like top 3 in all these other categories. So if the goal was to get a catcher that is among catchers an elite hitter, he's the guy. Statistically, that's 100% accurate. But everyone or many will be sort of gauging him or measuring him defensively, especially, you know, he's inheriting Yadier Molina's job. And even the beat-up, sort of broken down Molina last season was really excellent defensively. And listen, I think Cardinals fans absolutely will embrace Contreras. He's got everybody behind him. And he's worked his tail off. And not only before spring training, and to me he showed a lot of smarts, but also a lot of dedication because Venezuela begged him to play in the World Baseball Classic. I said, no, I have to get to know my new team, and I have to invest time getting to know my new pitchers. And, you know, this one time, you know, well, a lot of times I really like some of the stuff that's said and written during spring training. I do. I think Post-Dispatch has done a great job. John Denton has done a great job. But Derrick Goold did a wonderful story about Contreras and just how hard he has worked and how he's impressed everyone at camp. And Derrick just didn't throw platitudes around. I mean, he offered specific examples.
Yes, he did. Yep.
And so there is pressure on him because, look, he substantially upgraded their offense at catcher. He will. That's a given. But everyone's going to be looking at him, you know, the other teams too.
Yeah.
Is this guy – it's hard to run on him, but, you know, maybe take some pitches. His framing's bad. Maybe do this. Maybe do that, you know. Be on the lookout because he doesn't block pitches very well. You may want to jump and take a base, you know. And I guarantee you, he's going to have to deal with something that this is a baseball thing that's going on for all time. When I was a much younger man, Brooks Robinson retired. Brooks Robinson was toast. and even Brooks Robinson knew he was toast.
Right.
The Orioles had a third baseman that took over for him named Doug DeCinces. He was a really good third baseman. He really was.
He was, yeah. He had some really good years.
Didn't matter. Every time he made an error, this guy, man, I don't care if Brooksy didn't hit, I want Brooksy at third, So he's gonna encounter a lot of that. Every time Contreras doesn't block a pitch, or every time that's strike zone box on TV, there's a pitch that looks like a strike and it's called a ball. Contreras ain't no good defensively, so he's gonna have to live with that. So it puts pressure on him. But you know what? I think he likes it. He's got a lot of pride. I think he plays angry. But he obviously is a key. If he can be slightly above average defensively, then you got the best of both worlds, and he'll make impact as a hitter and as a defender, and I think that's exciting. But he's going to have to prove himself defensively. That's just the way it is.
The impact as a hitter will be so refreshing.
Yeah.
And it's not a shot at the guy before him. Let's face it, Yachty the last few years just wasn't a good hitter.
Right.
And the one thing about Yachty, nobody wanted to say it, if it was close, he was swinging. He wasn't going to walk. He was just up there hacking away. I got to get back to the dugout. If I get on, great. You're not going to have that with Wilson Contreras.
And people will only remember, this happens, and I think I've been guilty of it here and there. They'll only remember the great stuff about Molina rather than maybe the wind down of his career. Although defensively still really good.
Could still, yeah.
But the offensive thing was kind of a mess.
Well, to your point about how great he was defensively, he was as calm at catching the baseball as I think we've ever seen. And Derrick kind of talked about this in his article in the Post, how they moved him up. He's not reaching for balls, meaning Contreras. He's kind of, more catching it rather than just stabbing at it. And they think that's how he lost some calls in pitch framing.
Could be, right?
Yeah.
All right, you got to have some others keys to the season, performance could really influence them.
I have a key, but a key that could go the other way.
Oh,
meaning, if this doesn't work, this could be a real problem, and that's Giovanni Gallegos as a setup guy.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I don't know why. I think I'm being irrational. I thought he lost a little bit of his edge last season.
I thought that. I still don't know enough about the pitch clock and how it's going to affect him because we didn't see it. And he had a good outing over the weekend after he got back from the World Baseball Classic. But I go back to watching him kind of melt down in that World Baseball Classic in that ninth inning, and I go, I've seen that before.
Right.
And that's when it's not good Gio.
Right.
And if that's not good Gio, I think there's a problem because for me, I put him down as eighth inning guy, get me to Helsley.
Right.
If you're good, we're good when we get to the eighth inning.
He's been overall as a Cardinal, he's been great, but there's been some signs of slippage. I won't get into the numbers, but there has been. Not quite as reliable as he had been, but still really good.
Yeah.
But is the trend going to hold, or is the trend going to start to go downward? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I agree with your point. In fact, if I can expand on your point.
Go ahead, please.
Look, Fangraphs had a thing about Helsley, and I didn't need Fangraphs to tell me or us that, but they pointed out a couple of things about him, how dramatically he has improved, and they basically ended the column by saying, well, he said, look, basically what we're trying to say is he's one of the best couple of closers in Major League Baseball. I mean, they think he's right there at the if he's not the absolute best, he's the next one down. He's great. And look, the blow up was an isolated thing, and it came because bad luck, man. He sprained that thumb. With it was the last regular season game or the one before?
Yeah, Pittsburgh that weekend.
And he was cleared to go. He said he felt good, clear to go. I'm fine, 100%, blah, blah, blah. In other words, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine. And then when we know what happened in game one. But that was more on the manager than anything. You got a guy coming in there off an injury. You got to monitor him like a hawk. Anyway. So I really think that's behind him. And as long as he stays healthy, man, as hard as he throws, I always wonder about that. But let me tell you that the setup situation I don't trust. Here's why.
Yep.
This is one of the things that drives me nuts. like whenever Jordan Hicks pitches, and it happens on Twitter especially, but it also happens in kind of coverage of the game. It certainly happens on TV. It's like, did you see that pitch? He threw 102. Twitter, 6,000 people. Oh, my God. Jordan Hicks broke the radar gun. He threw 103. We know he can throw hard. Okay? That's been well established. Every time he throws 100, we don't need to be informed as if this is the burning bush, right?
Yeah.
It's not biblical, okay? We know he can throw hard. But what about the rest of it? I don't trust them.
I don't either.
And I don't know that they have enough there in lefty relief. I think Zach Thompson is capable of doing a really good job, but he hasn't been in the majors long enough to where we can say, absolutely. And then beyond that, it's just a bunch of guys.
Packy doesn't ever scare me.
Packy's on the opening day roster, right?
Right.
So that bridge that gets you to ultimately get you to Helsley when you have a lead, I don't know, man. I still think it could be.
It's probably the shakiest part of the whole club.
Little wobbly. That bridge, wobbly.
To your point about Hicks.
Oh, he threw 104.
It was 104 on Saturday, right? That's all I came. Well, he looks great. He threw 104.
Threw 104.
I went, yeah, but we've seen him throw 100 and not get guys out.
Yeah.
He doesn't have swing and a miss 104. He's got hittable 104.
One thing he's good at, he gets a lot of ground balls, and that's okay.
That's fine.
I think sometimes he gets caught up in that. Well, I'm going to show him I got 103 in me. Well, no, get it out.
Yes. You've seen Jake pitch. Jake Woodford.
Yeah.
He gets guys out. That's what you need to do.
And when when the situation's right and you do really need to amp it up, well, amp it up. So anyway, I'm a little nervous about that bullpen coming up to Helsley, getting to Helsley.
Yes. One more thing about Jake or Hicks, Jordan Hicks, that kind of puts me on edge. I think it was, got to give credit, I think it was John Denton wrote about him, talking about, I still like to be a starter. And I was like.
I did see, you know what?
I was like, no, we've seen that. Let's just not even put that in his mind.
I saw the headline, and with all due respect, seriously, for John Denton, we love John Denton.
Yes.
I didn't want to read the story.
I read it because I was like, John's just reporting what Jordan told him. Jordan said, I still like to be, and I'm like, no, you don't. You're not getting it.
I just didn't. I think I was in a pretty good mood. I just didn't want to be annoyed. Not by John, but by the comments.
Right.
All right. Give me another little twirl of the dial.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways to go. I mean, we can go back to the rotation, but I think Flaherty's the number one question.
Yeah.
I think you pointed out correctly, Matz looks great, and there's a reason to have confidence in him.
Yes.
We could add the same about Jordan Montgomery because he's going to be able to, he's playing for a contract and he wants to cash in. And we've covered sort of the most of influential pieces in the bullpen. And by the way, Jim, what I'm about to say, I just want to say as a preface, Jim Hewer can testify that I am not drinking at Friendly Sports Bar and Grill. Well, Diet Coke or whatever.
Yes.
But I actually have, because he's healthy, and Mosaic told me, he said, well, look, with Drew Verhagen, he's not healthy, okay? Give him a chance to pitch when he's healthy, and just see how he is. Just let him get healthy. He's healthy and he looks good. He's got really good stuff. So I think that could be a big development in the bullpen. If he really does become the guy that you trust in the 7th and 8th inning, he's going to have to be in the 7th at times, maybe even the 8th.
If he's good, he can work his way into that 8th.
He was throwing hard. His stuff had movement in spring training, You could just see kind of an authority to his pitching.
I hope so.
I don't know how a guy pitches when he's got a bad hip, and that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, that's true.
They
always talked about spin rate and all that when he came over.
Yeah.
Came back, I should say. They loved it. They live by that now in the game. Not even just here, but around the game of baseball. They go through the spin rate and all those numbers, and that a lot of times determines whether you get opportunity or not. So he's got one right now.
Right. Another key to the season is Nolan Gorman. And, you could even put him, in one of the top 3 spots. Look, you know how I feel about Gorman because I've said on the show a lot of times. Jim Hewer's got to listen to it every time. But, this guy, despite his problems at the end of the season, he had an on-base percentage that was above 300. And for some of these swing and miss types, that doesn't always happen. He slugged .420, but in the first 80% of the season, he was slugging like .460, .470. And the best or worst of Bernie, here I go again, 80% of his season was really good. The final 20% was about as bad as it gets. Mm-hmm. I choose to, because he was a rookie and a 22-year-old rookie at that, I choose to put the emphasis on the first 80% because that's the fair thing to do. Because that's what amazes me about the people who jump all over him. Did you not follow anything when he was coming up through the majors, the minors? Did you miss the 1,000 times that all the writers mentioned? Well, he's striking out too much. The Cardinals think that he'll get better and better at that because let's remember he's so young, and he was doing really well, and then until he wasn't, then he was really terrible. But I choose to look at that 80% to show us what his potential really is. So what about this year? He cuts down his strikeout rate. It's still going to be high, but suppose he gets it down to rather than 32%. Suppose he gets it down to 26, 27%. Heads in the right direction. I think he could have, if all this work he's put in and all the progress he's made as a hitter with the high fastballs, like he spent the whole winter working on how to handle high fastballs and how to stop swinging at them because pitchers are throwing them out of the zone. I think he can be a 25 home run guy. I sincerely do. He had, 14 last year?
Yes.
And he wasn't called up until, late May or mid-May? Mm-hmm. And he went off the cliff with 6 weeks to go. I mean, if you look at his at-bats, if he can hit 14 home runs and those numbers at bat, what's he going to hit if he, and I expect him to be in a lineup a lot at DH, what can he hit? What can he hit over a full season? And as long as he's made progress with laying off pitches he shouldn't swing at.
He intrigues me. One, raw power is just unbelievable. When you see him just flip a bat out there from time to time, you go, gee whiz, that thing went out at center field. He just crushed it. Here's my concern with Gorman. And it's not that he's going to fail, but I think at some point, if these other guys are putting up the numbers, I don't know where they're going to find at bats all the time for him. And the reason I say it, let's just hear me out on this for a second. You got your outfielders, they're all hitting. Then your decision is, do I have Donovan DH today? Do I have Gorman DHing? One of those guys got to play second. And let's just say Burleson and or Carlson are kind of hitting a little bit.
Right. Burleson will get some run.
I just wonder if he will get enough of those at-bats to keep him, what's the right word, sharp, because he's still a young player trying to adjust.
The priority's got to be Gorman because he's got the most potential to do value. What's that? Oh, pick your poison. Excuse me.
Pick your poison.
Thank you.
Because he's the most potential to be like a really impactful guy, You know what Fangraphs, I never talked about this, and I'm a Nolan Gorman honk. You know what Fangraphs projects him to do this year?
What's that?
29 homers.
Then he plays every day. Almost. But if that's great, yeah.
They got him about 500 plate appearances. So that's kind of what I was talking about. They still have him with a too high strikeout rate, though. But if guys hitting 30 bombs, you can live with it.
You do live with that.
But you're right. I mean, the thing of it is, we don't know exactly how Marmol's going to deploy him. We don't know, and he's going to be spreading the wealth. But I think they're fully committed to him. I just think they are, and I think they're going to stay with him and endure some of the valleys as they did for the first 6.5 months last season. Not 6.5, but about 5.5. So
I hope so, because I think they are going to need more patience with him. To go through some of those valleys. I think
when you draft a guy in the first round like that out of high school, and you are so excited because you really lack left-handed power, and you believe he's the one. And you saw what he did last year. Most of the time in his first major league season, he's a 22-year-old kid. You got to commit to him. You got to expect there's going to be some valleys. So Marmol's outstanding about finding enough work for everybody. So he says, and I think Jordan Walker's a key because for obvious reasons, what he could do. Although I'm reluctant to suggest, well, he's got to do this. What if he hits 40 homers, Jim? Well, no, it's just like
great.
No, it's so exciting. But imagine if he does fulfill reasonable expectations. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about the crazy people. Reasonable expectations. He'll be a plus for them. There's no doubt. And Dylan Carlson's a key too because look, Dylan Carlson's role is pretty much defined. How many at bats or plate appearances he's going to have remains to be seen. But he's going to be busy. I still don't get it how people are confused by this concept of 4 outfielders like getting work.
It can be done. It really can.
It's been done pretty much since forever.
Especially, there's a thing called a DH now. We got to get used to that. New fans.
And I could see Carlson. To your point about some of this stuff about who can do this or do that. Carlson should be, unless he's hurt, he should be the designated hitter in every single game started by a left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
There's no reason to put anybody else there.
Yep.
The occasional, going to give Goldie a half day off by that kind of thing. I don't know.
And I'll throw this in there. When you do have lefties, having Walker as an option, and you got your other outfielders, and then you've got your other guys that can, not force Carlson to go out there. Right. And I think that will help him a lot.
Well, I think we covered just about everything that was worthy of covering.
We're going to do any crazy bold predictions?
Doing what?
Are we going to do any crazy bold predictions for the Cardinals coming up? No. In this segment, or are we going to save that? I got a crazy one that people go, you got it.
Go ahead.
Mason Wynn's going to be the shortstop before the season's over, and Tommy Edman is going to have an arm issue. That arm problem, it kind of bothers me.
You were freaked out by what you heard on a Cardinals radio broadcast.
It was because he made a couple of throwing errors, and then he kind of straightened it out, but it was mentioned on the radio broadcast he hasn't been throwing very well at all. And you can't have a shortstop who can't throw the ball or has an issue.
I'm glad you brought that
with
up.
An arm. I hope it goes away. I really do. But when they say that, I go, uh-oh, that's not good. But that also opens a door for a guy who looks like he's just going to go down there and light it up. And you're going to have to say, I got a guy that can make all the defensive plays and can hit. He needs to play here now.
I'm not hesitating.
I'm speculating, obviously, on an injury. And you go, well, you're just flipping a coin. I get that. But when I heard the issue of possible throwing arm, I go, that might be the end for this guy to come in here and light it up.
WBC was a really bad idea for him. Korea had zero chance to advance. I just, come on.
I'm there with you.
And it's a guy runs himself into the ground anyway.
Yep.
All the wear and tear. So I hope he rebounds. No, I'm glad you mentioned it because, in fact, it doesn't get enough attention. The reason I hesitated when you said that, I was thinking, as long as Mason Wynn's doing a really good job at AAA,
Yep.
If Tommy for some reason has to be sidelined for a while, the first thing you do is you check Mason Wynn. You see how he's doing. Well, the scouts, manager would say, "Oh, he's doing great." Do you say, "Okay, maybe a little sooner than we wanted to, ideally, but yeah, let's call him up," or
you're going to open up another door.
Oh, or Paul DeYoung had some problems in spring training, and it would be unfair to dismiss him after he had a couple of injuries that prevented him from playing. And we really want to see what Paul DeYoung can do. We want to give him a chance, and he's healthy now, and we all know he's an above-average shortstop defensively. So We're going to go with Paul.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, right?
Uh-oh. Problem.
I know, right?
Yeah, and the only reason I brought this whole thing up, because there's always something that we don't see coming, or there's something's going to go haywire that you or I don't see or nobody else sees. But when I just heard the noise about he's have some trouble throwing the ball, I go, well, knowing the Cardinals and injuries, that's the kind of thing that lingers, and a couple more weeks now. Well, he's a little sore. He's been sore. We're going to shut him down for a little bit, and that scares me.
Or they could play except I don't think the long-haired dude can play shortstop. Not
Donovan.
No, not Donovan. That's not.
Tyler Mauter. Yeah, I think he's just here till either Paul is okay to come back or Mason Wynn takes that job or is able to come in and play every day.
Taylor Mauter, just for the record, because he's gotten way too much attention than he should.
Yes.
He's hitting 167. Pardon me. Let me go back on this. My bad. 5 years in the big leagues, or parts of 5 seasons in the big leagues. He's got a 191 average, 262 on base, 309 slug. And yet you got some media people in our town who are actually excited about this guy. Because everybody, you know why? All together now, kids.
Yeah.
Our town, we love the scrappers.
Yes, we do.
We love the scrappers.
I also think
he'll be running the bases, or he'll be bunting. He'll be knocking people over. He'll be getting dirty out there. I love scrappers. There's part of that in
see the hustle on him. Yeah, I saw it, but I also know the range isn't great.
No, and I wanted to fill this out.
There's a lot of guys too, Bernie. It
just drives me nuts
over the years who makes it as the last guy on the roster, right?
Yeah.
And you go, what a great story. He's been a career minor leaguer. He gets his chance. In 2 weeks into it, you go, yeah, he's gone. And I think that's what will happen with Mauter. Not to be mean to the guy, but that's what happens there.
All right, in the minors, in 10 seasons in the minors, he has started 154 games at shortstop. That ain't a lot. But whatever, we'll see. Again, here I go breaking my own rule of talking about him too much.
We're going to see him at some point.
Now you got me riled up about the Edman thing. But you're right. I mean, if they were making kind of a deal about it on, Camel X or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, then
just the fact that it was just stated, he hasn't thrown very well. I went, can't have that for a shortstop. Having a little issue throwing the baseball.
Got to get one of the beat writers on the case. Contact John Denton or something.
There we go.
Or maybe Derrick. We'll ask him about it, maybe. All right. Let's look into some of the predictions. I got to try to find these though, because I got a long list of them. It's kind of hard to get through on live radio. But anyway, the St. Louis Cardinals. Bold prediction from the Athletic, specifically Katie Wu.
Okay.
The biggest gripe regarding the Cardinals' projected roster is a lack of a true ace in the rotation. She goes on to say who the 5 starters are, and she says it's a formidable 5 with significant upside, but it won't send shivers down spines, especially in a postseason setting. Okay, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon my take, however, but it's not a formidable 5, okay? So we don't need to say that. We don't need to gloss it over. The Cardinals have a deep farm system along with a promising controllable talent already on the MLB roster. They set themselves up nicely to make a headlining trade without decimating their minor league system. Perhaps they'll indeed make one and acquire a true number 1 starter for the deadline. All right. This will come across as like me picking on KD Wu. I'm really not doing that. I think it's okay to disagree with writers,
Mm-hmm. I get that.
You can respect them and disagree with them. In fact, that's the way it should be. I do agree that if John Mozeliak's got to make a trade to get pitching, he will, right?
He's proven that the last 2 years.
Yeah. But when anybody says or writes, well, he's got the pieces to acquire, quote, a true number 1 starter. Can you tell me who that is, that starter?
That's a great question.
Who's going to be trading number 1 starters? Unless it's a walk year guy. Oh, and then if it is, then stand in line with the other 10, 12 teams trying to get him. I mean, we just fling these assumptions out, and I just That sounds good, but it's not a bold prediction because I think every Cardinals fan there is says, well, we got this great farm system, so Mo can go out and really get a good starter at the deadline. That's not a bold prediction. That's a pretty common prediction, as it should be, But I also just love this whole thing. It's like, well, yeah, they'll go get a number one. Who? What are you going to give up for him? You're going to give up Mason Wynn? Who are you going to give up?
When you make this,
Tink Hence, you're going to give him up?
Oh, yeah. He will be the hot name this summer.
Yeah.
And, our guy will tell us, well, every time they ask for Tink Hence. John Moselic will tell us.
Yeah.
They ask for Tink Hence every time, and we can't make that trade.
I just like to know who the number one starter is. Oh, that's right. Ohtani really wants to play with Nootbaar. Yeah.
Yes. Never let that die.
That's his new baseball brother.
Because that will be the story of the summer.
Yeah.
Not necessarily here, but Ohtani, and where is he going?
Yeah.
Because he's not going to end up in Anaheim.
Just wait for Ohtani, and I don't know when the Cardinals play the Angels, but just wait for that Ohtani Nootbaar reunion.
Look at their hugging. You see that before batting practice? They hugged, they shook hands, and he introduced them to all the other guys on the team while he was here.
And I like trade rumors and trade speculations. I don't like playing fantasy GM. I never concoct like fantasy trades. Well, the Cardinals give, they give Cleveland DeYoung, Michael McCreevy, and Kramer Robertson, and maybe you give up. You're willing to give up. I know it's a lot. Maybe include Burleson. You get that'll get you Shane Bieber. I don't do those kind of things. I want to be fired by KFNS. Could you promise me that? If you ever hear me doing that? And I'll give you an example. Now, I'm not saying that this is impossible. I think Mike Exis, or how do you say his name, for CBS Sports, and I like him. Good. He was asked to make, and it's an editor, say, look, we need some bold predictions. And he was asked to make some bold predictions. So one of the things he said, the Cardinals will trade Dylan Carlson to wherever the hell Trevor Rogers is. Is he still down in Miami?
Yes.
Okay.
He pitched well in one of the spring training games.
So they will trade Dylan Carlson for Trevor Rogers. Okay. Look, I was in the writing game for a long time, so I know what that's like. An editor says, look, we need bold predictions. So you're just trying your best
to put some dots together, yes.
I saw, it seemed like about 25 minutes after that, there's 2 blogs about it, analyzing the trade.
What would happen if this occurred?
Analyzing the trade and actually treating, there's nothing wrong with a little baseball talk and fantasy trades. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, if you ever see me, well, that's the writing side. But if you ever see me, or if you ever hear me talking about, well, let me analyze this trade proposed by CBS Sport. They're not proposing anything. They're flinging something out there because they have to do a bold prediction.
Yes.
But if I get to the point where I'm going to like every single rumor, and this isn't even a rumor, where I analyze it, just take my broadcast unit away.
Bernie, the show's over. We got to go.
There's 2 blogs based on 1 paragraph. Yeah. And even Mike, who wrote it, just made sure everyone knew, well, this is just having fun with bold predictions.
Sitting around, friendlies talking about it. What would happen if this occurred?
Let me write a couple columns on it. No. Anyway.
I wouldn't mind having Rogers. Look, if he's coming back and he's healthy,
he's pretty good. Well, Skip really liked, Skip. Don't forget, Skip Schumacher was here.
He knows all those.
So he'll be able to he'd be able to kind of engineer that trade. Let me write a blog. Anyway, it's that time of year, and I'm just being silly. Friendly Sports Bar and Grill down here in South County. I didn't read the story, and maybe I should have, but I'm kind of like in the mood to get to the bottom line because opening day starts like right now or just about.
Yes.
You know, Jeff Passan, and I honestly am going to read this. Talking about, he wrote about how the pitch clock's going to revolutionize MLB. I don't know if the word revolutionize, it's going to definitely change it in probably a major way. Mm-hmm. I do. And I think the approval for this has been, well, nothing's unanimous, but the approval for this has been really, really high. And I'm part of that. Jesse Rogers, our friend from ESPN, has been on the show. He said the pitch clock shaved 26 minutes off of MLB spring training games. Now, look, especially once you get halfway through spring training or whatever, everybody wants to get the hell out of there anyway and go home.
Oh, yeah.
Go get in a round of golf down in Florida, you know. So they're gonna be playing faster anyway. But that said, I sat through many a monotonous, too long game in spring training, and so anything that tells me whatever the context is, 26 minutes off the MLB spring training game times, that's good. I'll take that. But I think that is an indication of where it's headed. What I like about it is I've read a few of these pieces. I haven't read Jeff's yet, but I will. And the reaction to this around the game has been really positive. I'm talking about the players, the pitchers, the managers, you know.
Everybody likes it.
Just about. And we'll see some hijinks, and that's just something that happens. We will see some hijinks, and I hope games don't end on that we saw a couple times in spring training, end on, you know, a batter not getting into the box on time. But if you're going to put that rule in, you got to enforce it.
They do, and I guarantee you,
it's up to the batter to.
It is. It's a batter's clock, really, more than a pitch clock.
Understand that that's the rule, and you gotta make sure you get in there.
Yes. I'm
not going to sit there and say, this rule's stumped. No, it's the rule. Blame the hitter who's too dense to realize you got to get in the box.
It's going to happen tomorrow somewhere around Major League Baseball.
Oh my God!
And it's going to be, did you see what happened?
It's going to be fever swamp on.
You know what? We all
Twitter.
know what the rules are, and it's time to adapt to them. You know, I just know it's going to be an issue either today or Friday, tomorrow or Friday, when teams play their first games of the year. Somebody's going to have something happen. It's just inevitable. But I would say this. It's like when you were a kid, something like that happened. You learned your lessons, and they don't do that anymore, will you? No, right. I won't touch the hot stove anymore. That kind of thing.
Anybody was in spring training playing, and it's just about everybody that's on a opening day roster. If they don't know how this works by now, then they're responsible for any kind of screw-ups, right?
Yeah.
And so let's not start wailing about Rob Manfred and this is just a travesty for a game to end like this. No, it's not. The rules are in place. Everyone had a full spring training to get to them. It's up to get comfortable with them. And if they can't do it by now, it's on the players or the hitters or the pitchers. I'm not going to cop out. This is a travesty. These are same writers and and broadcasters who have been moaning about how long these damn games are. But they want to declare. They want to call in Amnesty International.
Yes.
Because a stupid hitter doesn't know when to get in the batter's box.
The one thing I wish they would adapt with this process of rule changes, Bernie, is having a mic on an umpire, on the crew chief, so we can understand a little bit better what's going on.
I'd like that.
Because there have been times all of a sudden the umpire just jumps out from home plate. You go, okay, what happened here? Was there a balk? Is it a clock? They're pointing here. And I think for me, it's like I got to get a little more used to, okay, we're pointing at this or that. And okay, what does that mean? I wish they would have a little bit of audio communication to go with it just to help it speed along, especially if you're at the ballpark and you don't have your transistor radio or your phone with you and you're not listening to the audio side of it. There's going to be a lot of people that are going, what just happened? I don't know. The guy went over here, and the umpire wasn't happy with something. Was that a ball? Was that a strike? Was that a balk? What did we see?
One question about the pitch clock in the shorter games, which not everyone, but a huge majority of people said they were in favor of it, and so it was implemented. You know what question I wonder about, and I'm not the first. I don't go to many games. It's been a while. I might try to get to a couple this year, but when you're actually attending a game compared to watching it on TV,
yeah,
I think you enjoy, speaking from my own experience, you enjoy being in the ballpark as a fan, and you enjoy, I want to eat some nachos, or I want to do that. It's just like, there's always something going on. You look forward to eating certain ballpark food, but you also look forward to just being out with friends or loved one and, hanging out, talking baseball.
Yeah.
And I never really, in my days as a fan, and I'm still a fan, but I'm just talking about one who used to go to games a lot. I never really, as a fan, ever thought about how long the game was going, because it's basically a social night out. And it's just fun to kind of pass the time there because there's stuff going on. And you're having a good time. Maybe you're having a beer. Maybe the Cardinals have done a great job with all these different concessions that they've expanded to,
Oh, yeah.
So are the people that go to a lot of baseball games, are they going to feel shortchanged? Not because not because they feel they're owed a certain amount of time for the ticket cost. No, but because it's just like, well, I love to go to baseball games. I don't need or want my time to be cut shorter. Now at home, I think it's a whole different mentality.
100% it's different. Yeah,
right.
You're like, oh, I got to get something done here at the house. I got to
get to sleep here soon,
yeah.
or I got to do some reading for tomorrow's show or whatever it may be. Now, you can always record, watch it later, but again, that only means you're going to be up later watching what you recorded. I just wonder about that. I don't listen when Jason Stark, who's wonderful, when he wrote one of his. He did several updates, really good updates during spring training about how the shorter times are and all that stuff, and some of the problems and all that. He did really, really good stuff. Every time he wrote about it in the comment section, people were like, so I'm supposed to be happy because I pay, $33 for a ticket, and they're putting a clock on the good time I'm having. You get those people.
Yeah.
But look, if that's the way they feel, I think there's a lot of performance art on social media. How about stating the obvious?
Yes.
Yes. But no, I can also, if they're sincere about that, I kind of understand. It's like, hey, that's the whole point. It's an enjoyable night. And if it lasts long, it lasts long. I'm going to have a good time the whole time. I get it. But I'm just, and to tie this in, and I've seen people make this point. We haven't made it yet on our show, I don't think. The owners are in favor of this, but what if you get to the halfway through the season and they tell the accountants, like, hey, how much revenue have we pulled in on concessions so far?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a factor.
Compared to, like, 2021, and let's go, or even, hey, run the comparison to 2022, not 2021 because we're still getting over COVID, not 2020. Run the numbers from 2019 to 2022 and where we are right now. What happens if the owners realize, what? We're losing a lot of revenue here.
I think that is going to be something that will be addressed, and I bet you by mid to late May they're going to figure out, we got a refrigerator kind of packed worth of stuff. We normally order more by now, don't we? And they're going to say, well,
because baseball really,
2.5 hour ball games, my friend.
I'll say this even in St. Louis, which is a great baseball town, but I know there's a lot of people that go because it is a social night out. There's nothing wrong with that because that's the way I feel about it. It's a night out, and you're with friends. Maybe you got family from out of town. It's a great night at the ballpark. You don't necessarily want to rush to get home. You're just going to enjoy and relax it because it's supposed to be special. But I
know what I am going to hear,
and you're going to get. There's a wide variety of really good food.
There is.
The Cardinals have really upgraded. I give them credit for that. Yeah, they know they're going to sell it. They're not giving it away for free, but still,
that's their point. You won't be able to go and enjoy as much as you might. Here's what I know I'm going to hear after about 2 weeks from somebody. We used to do that all-inclusive thing. We're not getting our money's worth out of that right now.
I don't think,
you know what? I'm in and out of there too fast. I don't get to enjoy whatever it is they want to enjoy.
Getting your money's worth is all relative,
I know, but I'm going to hear it from people. Oh.
If you see a great game, you see Jordan Walker, say, hit his first Major League home run, even if that game lasted an hour and 45 minutes, you're going to remember it.
You remember that.
So I don't know. It's all
I know I'm going to hear it from somebody, though. I guarantee it. It's like, we did this all-inclusive thing and we were in and out of there in 2 hours and 15 minutes. The kids didn't get 2 ice creams, and I didn't get 4 beers.
Well, you saved some money. Well, you saved some money that way.
There you go.
But can you imagine? Listen, man, growing up, and I'm older than you, but it's still. I think you were around as a youngster in the times where the games were much shorter.
Yeah.
I never once sitting there with my father. In fact, I think about those days and nights at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, and. Sometimes I get emotional because they're just such wonderful memories. Wonderful memories. My dad would surprise me, not the last minute exactly, but maybe an hour and a half before the game. He'd say, hey, let's go to the ball game tonight. They got good tickets available, I haven't seen Harmon Killebrew for a long time. The Twins were in town, right?
Great.
And you go to the ballpark. And I don't know what the average time was in those years, but I never once thought about how long a baseball game takes. It's a night at the ballpark.
I agree.
You enjoy if the game lasts in those days, maybe little under 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours, whatever. You just enjoy the time you had. It's because it's all about the experience. I don't care that the experience would actually last less time. I just don't. It's just sort of It's the quality of the enjoyment, and it's the quality of just enjoying the sport of baseball, but also all the other stuff that goes with it. Hot ballpark, hot dogs.
You reminded me of
different things, keeping score.
Being younger.
Yeah.
And there was a time, I will not say who, but it was an aunt and uncle who took me down to the ballpark.
Yeah.
Right. It was like. Bottom of the 7th, top of the 8th. All right, we're leaving.
Oh.
I was like, what?
No.
Why are we leaving? Well, we got to go. Traffic's going to be bad. I was just like, that. It only happened once.
That's a pretty common experience.
But it was like, I was like, no, the game's not over yet. You don't leave till the game. No, we got to go. Uncle so-and-so's got to get up for work tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that was like the end of the world. But to your point, yep. I never went to a game going, geez, this thing's got to be over. I was there because I went. Now, part of that was I may have only was lucky enough to go to 1 or 2 games a year as a kid. That's just the way things worked. So it was much more of a grand experience rather than going every night. I guess if you're going every night, you're kind of like, we can leave it a little early tonight. But
if it's a blowout, for sure.
But, yeah.
My dad would sometimes want to get a head start.
Traffic's going to be bad.
I would battle him. Most of the time I could convince him. I said, look, man, it's a 1-run game, man. I mean, something could happen, Dad. All right. But if the game's a blowout, I'm actually going to suggest first that,
okay, there you go.
You know what I mean?
I can get
on out.
You're sitting there in traffic on 44 at a standstill. See, I told you we should have left early.
I know.
All right, Dad. All right.
It's so funny how that stuff works. How are you doing, first of all? Everything good?
Yeah, good. I unpacked a bag. I got a couple other bags to go. Some laundry to do back from spring training. Some catching up to do. But, yeah, it's nice. And standing here looking over the field at Busch Stadium. Opening day logo is being painted behind home plate as we talk. Some folks are down there getting their photo taken with the brand-new field. The arch is carved in the outfield. All of it. Bunting is hanging here, so it's almost all set to go.
It's a beautiful day. Tomorrow will be even better. By the way, when you were talking about unpacking, you had a second bag. I think when our mutual friend and someone we look up to, Rick Hummel, I think when he would, go to spring training and back, I think he had to actually rent his own truck. You know how the Cardinals have the equipment truck that takes off? I think Kamish had his own truck. Because remember when we travel with him, I loved it because Kamish would have. It was like maybe the first or second road trip I was with him on. Like He's lugging all this stuff out of the hotel to get to the airport, and I'm telling you, it's like he packed enough to be away from home for a month. I mean, anyway.
Pairs of shoes for every day, yep.
Hey, Derrick, did manager Marmol, did he confirm the starting lineup that I think we all believe will be the starting lineup tomorrow?
He did not. Elements of it, but he didn't list it. It's going to be the lineup that you saw in Sarasota with Miklasz at pitcher, not Montgomery. But pretty much that same lineup. It looks like Nootbaar in left and Walker in right based on where they were taking their ground balls and, cutoffs and relays today and all that stuff. But Marmol has said, he's given more thought to that and where each guy will play, and it might depend on different ballparks, that kind of thing. So maybe even different handedness of the pitcher, to be honest. Yeah, that's the only part of it. But Walker will be in the lineup if that's who you're interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
His catch Miklasz a lot this season.
Sorry, I wanted to ask you about Walker. Just take us to the scene down there today, because I'm sure there was a lot of people talking to him, probably talked in one setting, but how would you describe his mood? What was the look in his eyes today? I can't imagine what he's feeling, even though he's a mature guy and all that. But it must have been a wonderful day just to be there, knowing you're going to play and be in the lineup the next day.
Yeah, I mean, Walker was grinning and working, and he was having fun, and he was wearing 18 on his sleeve, which he hadn't worn before. There's an 18 jersey hanging in his locker, which is down on the Goldschmidt side of the clubhouse. He went about his BP like he normally would, and was asked afterwards how everything went, and he was like, it was a fine day. Like, he just downplays everything. I mean, he probably could have hit every ball over the wall and come away saying, well, yeah, there's something in my timing I'm still working on. Or he could have hit none of them over the wall and ask him, and he'd probably say, there's something in my timing that I'm working on. He's just pretty even. Well, not pretty. He's very even keel with everything, and isn't going to let. He's not going to let like the enormity or the spectacle of it all overwhelm him. But that's not to say he's not going to enjoy it. I mean, he has relished the opportunity he's been given, and he talked very, very energetically about how many people he's going to have, cousins, family here at the game. He talked enthusiastically about tips he's got from teammates about what the pregame ceremonies are going to be like. This is he didn't get to see this because he was drafted in 2020. All right, so he's not like other first-round picks who get the Busch Stadium experience, who get to come in and take BP, who get to do all that. Drafted in 2020, the first time, he really is a pro. It's there's no season for him. Then all the limits in 2021 as he starts his pro career. So you're talking about a young man who is not only he's really getting his first Busch Stadium experience. And, oh, by the way, it's also his major league debut.
It's really cool. Can't wait to watch that game tomorrow. Hey, I wanted to ask you this because it's something I think it's probably being asked of every beat writer who covers a team. That had a lot of players away in the World Baseball Classic. Do you think your observations, do you think there's lingering effects, could be lingering effects that are sort of carrying over to the regular season? It isn't those players aren't ready, but maybe they're not entirely as sharp as they want to be. Do you get any signs of that?
Well, I think with hitters, you're going to see that they're actually primed and ready to go. I think with hitters, you're definitely going to see that with one little caveat is that they haven't had a whole lot of experience, especially guys like Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Nootbaar that went so deep into the tournament. They don't have a whole lot of experience with the clock, the pitch clock.
Right.
And I think that's going to be something that, and they've all talked about it. They didn't have that much experience with the new rules. They played in high-pressure situations with old rules. And so now how they adjust after being a week away, that's something that they're kind of looking for. I think with pitchers, it'll be really interesting. Miklasz pitched some in the World Baseball Classic, but it's hard to say that, he pitched a lot of intensity in the World Baseball Classic. He didn't have the games and starts that say, some Merrill Kelly did or Wainwright did in the championship or Cuba, respectively. He had more games when he pitched when things had already been decided. So, I think that there is, for some pitchers, and again, Miklasz didn't really show this, but for some pitchers, there could be that question about, like, all right, you were really on a scheduled and, prescribed kind of usage. Well, how do you rapidly adjust where that's not the case? And how many pitches are you really ready to throw? And, are you up to that kind of heightened challenge, heightened adrenaline of what awaits in the regular season? So I think for the most part, the players who come out of the World Baseball Classic are going to slingshot ahead this season, meaning that they're already going to be at a game speed, at the highest of game speeds because of some of the games that they played there, Bernie. But I think there are a few cases where you kind of watch the pitchers and okay, well, what are they physically ready for the demand like they would be coming out of a usual Cactus or Grapefruit League schedule?
Derrick Goold with us from the Post-Dispatch. He's live at Busch Stadium, STL today.
I am
of course.
Still alive, yes. I am.
Yeah, you are alive. He's live.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to run this by. I wanted to run this by you. Jim Hewer was telling me that he was listening to a Cardinals broadcast recently on radio, and they mentioned something about Tommy Edman, maybe having a problem throwing. And I just wonder if what you know about that, or what is it anything that Cardinals fans should be concerned about, or is it just kind of a routine soreness you get in spring training?
Well, so it was. As of right now, it's neither of those things. It was asked about, but it was odd because it was like early in a game and then it vanished by later in the game. Right?
He was fine. He was fine then.
Yeah,
okay,
okay,
cool.
Same game. Yeah, and so it didn't linger. I mean, it was a question, but it almost like it was asked and it almost had its answer in the later innings. So I think it's something that I have, in my notes to kind of watching today, and there wasn't anything. But kind of continue to watch. But yeah, it was odd early on in a game. I know exactly what Jim and the broadcasters were talking about because I scribbled it in my scorebook, and we were all going to ask afterwards. And then it was like not an issue for a couple other innings.
Well, see, that's why I wanted to ask the expert because Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to. No, I would like to. I failed in this regard because I meant to ask if he just got caught on the back foot a little bit, right? And that would have explained it. And I should have, and I just didn't. But as they were moving in later in that game, it wasn't an issue. We asked about it, and we got our answer.
All right, and again, thank you for that. If there's something going on, about it, and so I want, like I said, I'm not even just trying to butter you up. I go to the expert. I'm glad I asked the expert because he came through again. Can I ask you something? First, let me tell you how I feel about this, and I'll be very brief, I promise, but I want to give you the context. Jack Flaherty's throwing hard. Jack Flaherty feels good. Jack Flaherty, by all indications, I'm not going to say he's looking perfect, but he's looked good. He looks like he's a guy ready for the season. But, of course, late in spring training, just from an ERA standpoint or whatever, not so impressive. My philosophy is just shut up until the regular season starts and just let's see what happens. But where do you think he is? Do you think he's in a good place right now?
Good place physically, good spot confidence-wise, good spot. I don't know what mentally or whatever physical bearing or body language, all good spots in those regards. I would take the ERA from spring with a grain of salt because 3 of those runs scored while he was not in the game, but he was rolled out of an inning, so that he could start the next one. I think he had a couple of those runs scored like that, another one where he didn't get the pitch out of a jam, and those runs scored, and those runs were given up by guys who are in Class A, one of whom had to face Jose Abreu with the bases loaded and hit him. So the ERA is like whatever. I mean, it comes without context. That's not to say that it doesn't tell part of the story. It does. Jack was searching for a command of his fastball some, and when he didn't have that, he lapsed into long counts, long innings. Wasn't able to access the slider, which looks really good. So like you said, there are all the indications there. All the indications are there of his health and his strength and his recovery and all the things that they hadn't seen in the past. Now it's about the effectiveness, and that wasn't as sharp as in spring as it needs to be in summer, just to put it bluntly. That execution of pitches, it needs to be better for him to excel at the rate and to the level that the Cardinals need for them to really challenge in this National League. So it's got to improve on the job. But can it be? Yeah, because he has what he didn't have before, which was health, and that's given him what he didn't have before, which is that confidence and kind of swagger. And so I think those things are something that will serve him well. There are also some things that his teammates and everybody who watches him can pick up on really quickly. And then now it'll be a matter of how sharp is he when he gets on that mound? How sharp is he when he faces one of the best lineups in baseball? And if he is sharp like he was in spring, it could be a pretty tricky outing. If things come together for him coming out of spring, then you're going to get the Jack that the Cardinals really hope is back.
Derrick Goold, a couple more things for you, sir. I wanted to ask you this, and maybe it's too early to ask. The real baseball and all that stuff starts. It might be a better time, but from all your time down in Jupiter, Ali Marmol's got he's got a fairly remodeled coaching staff, and I'm wondering just the vibe or the information you've gathered, your observational information, your interview information. How do you think that's going so far? With Dusty Blake is the pitching coach in particular, Joe McEwing is the bench coach, and who's the hitting coach? I forget. Who's been elevated? Yeah, Turner Ward. Sorry about that. I was going to call him some other Ward. Anyway.
Burt Ward?
Yeah, Burt.
right?
I made
because you want your hitting coach to be the sidekick to Batman?
I might actually, and he has many Batmen, so I might actually have to nickname him that.
No,
Burt Ward.
Right. Yeah, it works.
I'm glad I forgot his first name because that's great. That actually turned into a really good thing. No, but what's the vibe? Things seem to be going well, but what is your view of that? Because you have a better view than I do, obviously.
I think it's going well. I think it's Marmol creates kind of a cabinet, if you will, where he wants them to challenge him. I think he has those personalities now. Whereas I'm not sure there wasn't really that vibe last year. Mike Maddox would, Jeff Albert left, so now he's got a group where Turner Ward's not new to being a hitting coach at the majors.
Right.
He's been a hitting coach at the majors with other teams. So he's not really new to the role. Like Dusty Blake's brand new to the role, right? And bringing kind of a new pizzazz and style to the role. But he's got relationships with these guys. And I think, almost every pitcher that I've spoken to said that they expected Dusty to be a numbers guy, and then they talk to him, and he's not. And so it kind of flips him a little bit. He quite literally throws them a curveball with what they expect from him. And I think they're getting a sense of that. He deferred, as he should, to the guys ahead of him last year. And now that there's no one ahead of him on the pitching front, a little bit more of what you'd expect from a traditional pitching coach who is powered by news metrics and powered by technology and informed by all those things is coming out. I think I know that Marmol likes that aspect and likes what Dusty brings as far as the pursuit of the swing and miss and the perception of the swing and miss. And the importance of pitch shape and how to arm guys, pun intended, with the ability to throw better pitches and execute them better. And also not search for pitches they don't have. Like, if you don't have it, Dusty will say, move on, get rid of it. You don't need to have a show cutter. You don't need to have a show pitch. Do what you do best and do that often. And if you don't know what that is, then it's his job as a pitching coach to do that. I think Joe McEwing is, it's interesting because he's probably an ideal kind of bench coach for this group. Skip was great, and Skip is going to be an excellent manager. Miami gets first dibs on him, and then if he doesn't lead that team to a division title, he's going to win with some team as a manager. You and I think, both feel that way. I feel confident knowing that that's going to happen. It might be as the manager of the Dodgers, for example, just picking a team out of the hat. But what Joe McEwing has brought is kind of like a classic Cardinals bench coach, like a Joe Patini, like a Jose Oquendo, a guy rooted in the George Kissel world, right?
Right.
And ready and available to do whatever and everything. And, he's so thrilled to be around that really rubs off on folks. And so what you have, and it's a long answer to your question, Bernie, what you have is you have this mix of guys with seasoning, Turner Ward, and jovial personalities, and you have guys who are bringing in kind of the new school and willing to kind of challenge conventional thinking, and Dusty Blake. And then you have this galvanizing presence who mixes tradition with organization in Joe McEwing, and it's got a really good kind of feel to it. Particularly, I think the one that is going to stand out, and I want to say this carefully because it really isn't like criticism of what they were as a group and the philosophy. It's just Turner Ward is quite different with his messaging than Jeff Albert. I'll put it this way. The way Jeff Albert went about being a hitting coach is the type of thing that you'd write in a academic studies book with footnotes and everything. The way Turner Ward goes about being a hitting coach is with phrases that appear on T-shirts. And that really kind of connects with guys.
That's pretty cool. I can see that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It keeps it interesting, keeps it fun.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff Albert is more of is going to be more like me, laborious, onerous, deep thinking, long paragraphs, overwrought, and then you got Turner Ward, you're going to be more jam packed with catchphrases and stuff like that.
I totally get it. Yeah, when you said at the beginning that that you referred to Ali Marmal's cabinet, well, who's the Robert McNamara? Who's the William Seward?
Yeah. So Peter Rival. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I really wish that I was up more. I mean, Pop Warner's got to be one of them, right? Probably Robert McNamara, right? Send him in.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Isn't that right? Wouldn't that work? Yeah.
Yeah, it would. And who's the feisty guy that maybe kind of thinks that
Ollie?
He should. No, he's the feisty guy like Seward who thought I should have been the president,
Well,
and then
got to be Stubby Clapp. Then he took down Pete Alonso. Got to be Stubby Clapp.
And if you're talking about, I thought of this. If you were talking about, the coach that would fill in the cabinet, the Elliot Richardson role. Now that's someone who would really push the manager, right?
Yeah, you're really taxing my U.S. history knowledge here. Nixon
fired him because he would not fire the special prosecutor.
Oh, right. The bloody, yeah.
The Bloody Saturday.
Bloody Saturday, yeah. Which, gosh.
I'm just having fun. Yeah, I'm having fun because, sometimes you you can combine like politics and baseball. You can have some fun with that. So anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just being silly. But you probably appreciate that after all this baseball talk like nonstop in your life for months, so.
Yeah, because there's nothing I like more than political talk on Twitter. That really goes well for me.
Yeah, I avoid that. In fact, I was going to throw the name William Barr in there, but then I thought better of it, because it would be like, MAGA would come after me or something. No, actually, they don't like him anymore. I don't remember. I can't keep that. I can't keep any of that straight. Hey, Derrick, I ask you this, of course, not as a fan, but a trained professional. Do you think the Cardinals are where they should be going into the season? In other words, a lot of stuff looks really, really good with them. The offense could be really scary, but there are concerns. But do you think we'll see them at their best, during the season, early in the season, or is it going to take a while?
That's a great question. I think the offense is primed, and I think the bullpen is better than we can articulate. I think, and people are going to roll their eyes, but what Drew Verhagen can bring to the back end of a game is going to be fascinating. If he throws like he did in spring, and we haven't seen it, so you got to see it. But if he connects with the way he threw in spring, with the pitches he had, and in a short kind of burst outing, not the whatever they tried last year with him before he went on the IL. That's a ferocious bullpen. There's a lot going on there, and there's also a lot of depth in the minors coming.
Yes.
It would not shock me at all if you have 3 different guys getting saved, and by August you're looking up into the division race, and you got 2 rookies out there throwing 100, and you got a lefty in Zach Thompson. Actually, make it 4. You can get 4 guys that get saved, and you got a lefty in Zach Thompson who's got 97, 98 coming off his fingertips. So I think the makings of the bullpen are serious. The versatility of the bullpen is serious. The depth of the bullpen is serious, and I kind of use this description. I think it holds is you think about like the Cardinals on a road game, right? And this kind of defines their team right now, right? They have the offense to take an early lead, and they have a bullpen to shorten the game. So a road game plays really well into their hands. They send up possibly 2 MVP candidates, 2 OBP, guys in Donovan and Nootbaar, and then a run of right-handers, all of whom excel at driving in runs. That's your first inning. And then, oh, by the way, in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, you're facing, some mix of Gallegos, Thompson, Burke, Hagan, and then Helsley, who is quite possibly the most underrated closer in the National League, to be candid. And
I think so.
That's your game.
Right.
So what decides the season is what happens in the middle. And that, to your question, is where they aren't where they need to be. They're not. They got Adam Wainwright on the IL. They don't exactly, as we talked about, have Jack, roaring out of spring training. He's healthy, he's good. There's elements there that they can count on. Montgomery had an up and down spring training. That's not a pun. But, he had inconsistency. Stephen Matz had the best of them. And Miklasz was really impressive his last time out, but spent some time for some odd reason. He was the best. He was arguably the best starter that Team USA had, but no one told Andy Pettitte that. So I'm not sure if word hadn't reached New York of how good Miklasz was. But for him to be used the way he was, it kind of left him searching to do work on the side and not in competition. So all of that is that what decides this Cardinal season is in the middle there, in the middle of a road game. How do they take advantage of an early lead and get it to the bullpen that can shorten the game? It's all about the starting pitching, and that's not at the level that they want it to be. But can it? It can be, sure. They can get a big test right away.
Derrick Goold, wonderful to chat with you, and hope to see you a little bit down the road. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you on this show once a week. We look forward to it every week. Have a great season. Have a great season.
Thanks.
Up in the press box, all the scribes. Take care, brother.
Up in the Bob Brigg, Rick Hummel press box.
That's right. You're going to put Derrick Gould's name on it one day.
No, there's no room, sir. No. There's a porta potty over by patios.
Listen to you. We'll talk soon. Thanks, man.
All right. Have a great day.
That was fun. See, I got him going with the Robert McNamara stuff.
You did. That was
well he's
done.
The one that said cabinet.
He did. He did say cabinet.